got it better than us? Nobody! Nobody! Who's got it better than us?
All right, I'm Bonnie Jo Laughlin.
And I'm Melissa Jacobs.
And you're watching another edition of Four Downs, our show about our beloved 49ers. And first of all, let's talk about this extraordinary domination over the Bills.
I mean, that's the right word, right? I mean, it was... I think it's... I mean, I don't know. Is this the game that Alex Smith is like, becomes better than average and bordering on actually very good? I don't want to use the word great because I'm going to freak you out, but...
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But yeah, I mean, it was just overall, we dominated on both sides of the ball, and it was just... Yeah. It was unbelievable.
But we've dominated on defense for forever, it feels like. But, I mean, for Alex to go over 300 yards, I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, we broke the NFL record.
Multiple receivers with over 100 yards. I know. I mean, it was just, like, I didn't know what I was watching. I felt like I was in a time capsule back to, like, 1988 or something.
And I was lucky to be there, and it was great. I mean, the stick was just electrifying like it has been all season, and we'll be there this weekend, hopefully. And that's what our next question we're getting into is the matchup against the Giants. I mean, in my opinion, I think this both teams are pretty evenly matched. I mean, I know that it's kind of a revenge for us, from the NFC Championship game because we were a better team. If you just take away those two muffed punts, let's not talk about that. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think we have the advantage because we're at home, but I don't want to make any calls yet on what's going to happen because I think it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, it's a little difficult when you witness what happened last year to feel very gung-ho going in. I mean, the difference between Eli Manning now and Eli Manning at this point in the season last year is he doesn't make dumb mistakes to lose games anymore. And
exactly. Before, he'd be that guy that you knew, okay.
He'd be that guy, and then come playoff time, then he becomes clutch guy. But during the regular season, he's, bad Eli, good Eli, whatever you want to say. And they're getting Hakeem Nicks back this week, it looks like.
Yes.
So... I mean, I know our secondary has allowed. I think they've allowed the second least amount of passing
yes, that's
yards, which is very impressive. And they don't have as many interceptions as some other teams, but I don't know. I'm definitely nervous about Nicks, and I think it's gonna be. I feel like it's either gonna be a really high scoring game or a really low scoring.
Really low, yeah. And we'll be there and we'll watch this battle, so I'm pretty excited for this upcoming game. And speaking of the Giants, last season we, were booing Manningham and Jacobs, and now they're part of our squad. And speaking of Jacobs, he was supposed to return, and we talked about that on our show, and then all of a sudden he's not 100%, and then people are saying, oh, he needs to play special teams, but obviously we know why we brought him in is for, a lot of this inside the goal line, third down yardage, and I'm kind of getting confused on what is going on over there.
It sounds like he is too. I know there was came out this week that he was upset about his role and that he said he was ready to play last week. So when we were projecting it, we weren't, wrong about his health apparently. But I mean, he's becoming a little bit of a diva. I mean, he's becoming a little bit of an issue, honestly, and I don't think that's the way to get yourself playing time is to complain about lack of on this kind of team with this kind of running game already established. So
and I didn't think he was like that until this past week when he's been complaining about his role. So
I did because he's been complaining in New York for years, and if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I just sit his ass down. Honestly, do we really need him right now? Our running game is
it's true. We don't. I mean, and he caused problems. I know before we had heard stuff over the Giants, but I thought with the new environment and with Harbaugh, Harbaugh's such a player's coach. I didn't think this was going to be an issue, but he's kept Moss in line. I mean, look at Moss.
I know.
Moss isn't.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like, well, yeah, if Moss is in line, then Jacob should obviously be in line, right? But I guess one of them had to flip.
Okay. Another thing we should talk about is Alex Smith. Now, we know the Bills secondary was garbage. I mean, I made a joke that I could have caught a pass from Smith. That secondary. But it's hard to judge from that one game, but the passing yards and the completions and him targeting the end zone and, accuracy, everything. Alex Smith looked phenomenal.
Yeah. The thing that I'm really liking about Alex is he doesn't have some of the tools that some of the more elite quarterbacks, in terms of arm strength in terms of, back shoulder
Exactly.
throws,
Exactly.
things like that. But he
strength.
knows his limitations. He knows exactly what, he knows what he can do and can't do. And he's playing accordingly for the most part now. And that's what a lot of other, that's why Jay Cutler gets into trouble. That's why Aaron Rodgers is getting into trouble this year and overthrowing, because they're so overconfident. And Alex knows exactly what he can do, and he's just playing really, really, really smart football right now.
He is. He's looking great. I mean, I'm very impressed. I know you were like, oh.
So you've been turned, because, let's know that with our first show, you were not convinced.
I wasn't totally convinced. I'm a big fan, but I just, I still like to be realistic. And now he's, knocked me off my socks in that last game.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have Peyton Manning the way Peyton Manning's been playing this year?
I know, because remember we spoke about that earlier, and I guess I have to eat my words and say that right now I'm happy with Alex Smith.
Oh, I'm sure he appreciates it.
Love. All right, let's talk about Kyle Williams. Niner fans know everything that went on last year and the death threats and so forth. And for this kind of guy he's so resilient, to come in and just have a great offseason. He worked hard. He was such in good shape. He came into camp, had an amazing camp, and now look how great he's doing. I mean, I'm really just impressed on how well he's been able to come back, because that was pretty tough. I mean, they basically put everything on his shoulders. I mean, Harbaugh said we win together, we lose together, and really had his back. But I've really felt bad for him, and he's been able to really do well.
Yeah, and we're, we'll admit we're super homerish on the show. But, yeah, I mean, homers. But I think I'm rooting for Kyle like more than anyone this week. With the homerish base. I mean, obviously it would have been nice for him to that score he got last week, for that to be this week, and hopefully he'll repeat it. But I mean, he is a guy, like you said, he could have just crumbled up into a ball. And he wasn't a person that, was a big part of the game plan this year necessarily. And he just sort of continued to work hard. And as you said, do well in training camp, and, he still needed to earn a roster spot. And I mean, just sort of the mentality there is just really, really impressive. It's
actually a good story.
Yeah, look what happened to Billy Cundiff. The same.
The same exact thing.
Like,
yeah.
Polar opposites.
We would like to have him on the show, so hopefully we can get Kyle on the show and talk to him, or maybe we can talk to him post game after the Giants game. So another question you had was, are the Niners an elite team? Obviously, we know that they are. I mean, Atlanta and Chicago and. What?
Dumb question?
Yes. I mean, there's obviously Atlanta people are talking about, and Chicago, and, the Giants who are playing this week, but you've got to put the Niners up there. I mean, right now they're leading the league in rushing 1,000 yards, and right now they look like the complete package if they can just keep it up and keep healthy.
Yeah, I mainly wanted to ask that as an excuse to say that I think Matt Ryan's completely overrated, and he's been really inaccurate. That Atlanta being the Niners' probably biggest competition in the NFC right now. So.
Yeah, so when we'll see. I guess this is going to be a good way to show what the Niners got.
Yeah.
Matchup this weekend.
Exactly.
So that is it for our first down.
Welcome back to Four Downs, and this week we're going a little different direction. We're going into the dark hole of the media, and I'm joined by David Fucillo, who runs Niners Nation, which is basically one of the, I think, maybe the biggest 49ers blog out there, through SBNation.com. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. It's been fun meeting 49ers fans around the country.
Yeah, and speaking of, I should explain how I met you. Well, first there was Twitter, which is how all relationships start, and then discovered that you were moving to DC, which is where SB Nation is based. So why don't you first talk about like how that came about and what the move was like from San Francisco to DC?
Well, I lived in San Francisco for 9 years, from 2003 until this past January, 2012, and started Niners Nation in late 2006. I realized I was bored at work and just needed something to do. Yeah. And I've been a 49ers fan. That's the one team I've been a fan of since pretty much childhood. Okay. And so I started running that, and it kind of all just sort of snowballed until I was able to kind of work it into a full-time job with SB Nation. And so I moved out here in March of this year. And so now my job title is NFL producer, but I still run Niners Nation.
Okay, yeah, I just to think of you as like the guru, the runner, the manager, the editor, the everything, I guess. What was it like, or I mean, what's it been like being in DC and not kind of being in the heart of the action?
Well, being stuck with Redskins games really sucks.
Yes.
49ers are the national game of the week this year, or this week, and we're not going to get them. So I went over to a bar here in Crystal City Sports Pub. I saw the Vikings game. They lost that game, so I don't think I can get back.
So what are you going to do?
I last week I found alternative means for watching the game. I don't think I can discuss them because they are alternative means.
Okay. Totally legal.
Totally legal. Yeah. I'm a lawyer. I know these things.
Yeah.
so it's still to be determined. It's up in the air what I'm going to do this Sunday for the Giants game because I got to. I mean, this is the biggest game thus far.
Yeah. We'll talk about NinersNation.com, which is awesome and just underwent a new layout. But talk about the kind. I'm sure everyone that's watching this goes there like 200 times a day. But just talk about if anyone isn't, just talk about the content. How many people you have on staff and what kind of stuff you try to produce on a daily basis.
I mean, it's cliched a little bit. But we try to produce everything. I mean, to the point that I've brought on about 6 or 7 different guys that do different things, whether it be a daily link post in the morning. We get all the news that we can. Thankfully, the 49ers have put me on the press release list, so that helps really get a lot of the basic news, the press conferences, that kind of stuff out there. We do a lot of different breakdown. We do everything from breaking down video with the release of the All-22 footage. That's really helped improve that. Talk about some fantasy football stuff related to the 49ers. Some more. We have one guy that does more broad NFL content, but really the idea is just to get people, make this kind of their go-to place for 49ers, and really to a certain extent, the NFL in general. They can talk about it with people that they already have developed sort of on relationships with.
Yeah, and you do interviews too, right? Because I know you did Patrick Willis recently, and
yeah, I've been able to do a few interviews. It's a little. Phone interviews are surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the further advances in technology for that. But we've done a few. I've been able to attend some events that for some 49ers. I think far and away the most interesting event I attended was Vernon Davis's art opening.
Wow. Tell us about it.
Oh yeah, that was I believe it was the week they played the Browns because there was a player from the Browns that was there as well. And a bunch of the players showed up to support him because he majored in art history at the University of Maryland. Mm-hmm. And so his big passion from the charity side is really promoting arts in school and promoting arts in the inner city. And so part of this was him basically releasing a lot of different pieces of art. I'll email you a link. I'll tweet out a link that you guys can check out. I got some pictures of a lot of his work. He's he's not Picasso or anything like that, but he's I think he's a talented artist.
That's awesome. That's interesting. I mean, do you think that's kind of one of the beauties of running a blog like yours? It's sort of like literally like so all-inclusive Niners that you can go to art shows, you can go to charitable events, and it's like still actually interesting, relevant content?
Definitely. I think the advantage I have, and this actually, I think there's a certain benefit to not having spent much time at training camp, not going to a lot of the games, kind of staying on my side of things, is I can kind of do what I want to a certain extent. I can cover what I want. In this case, I get emails from different publicists about different things, and things like going to Vernon Davis's art opening, or just getting a chance to interview Patrick Willis about kind of what has driven him with this promotion. I mean, yes, it's part of he's shilling a product. I mean, that's the way it is. Yeah. But what's cool is that you can kind of get into a deeper layer, like Patrick. Patrick Willis. The whole point of this promotion that he was doing is something to do with like what drives you, and it's a battery thing, and all that kind of stuff. But I was able to talk to him about why football has really how it's helped him so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, as obviously that you have to take these promotion things, and I did one with Nick Lachey this morning, and like somehow, by the way, he hates the 49ers because he's a big Bengals fan.
I hate Nick Lachey.
He hates the Niners like we hate the Cowboys, I think. So yeah, we can hate Nick Lachey. I can say that on here.
Well, his ex-wife married a former 49er.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Eric Johnson was one of my favorite 49ers.
Really? Do you have a good Eric Johnson story?
I drafted him in a fantasy league in the very last round, the year he had 82 catches. So yes, that is my fantasy. That is short.
Okay, that's good enough. Well, is there anything else coming up on Niners Nation that we should know about? Any special, or just for the regular churning of content that we can expect?
A lot of the regular stuff. I'm getting out to San Francisco probably in early November, so hopefully going to try and get out. And the thing with the change that we've made to the layout has created some new back-end tools, and one of those is sort of a picture gallery. Not quite the not quite a photo gallery like other websites.
Yeah.
It's actually basically we can plug in a gallery of pictures and tell a story from that, and be able to just insert in all the pictures we want. People can read the pictures without having to bounce around from page to page. So
gotcha.
Hopefully, if I get out to San Francisco, I'll be able to kind of get some good pictures from there.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me, and everyone, if you're not already, check out NinersNation.com. It's an amazing site. All the tools that any 49ers fan would ever need.
Welcome back to Four Downs, and now we are at our third down, which is different topics that are off the field. And the first thing that me and Melissa want to talk about is this rivalry with Victor Cruz and Carlos Rogers. We recall that he did the little salsa dance over Cruz after an interception, and we all, thought it was funny, and we were cheering, right? Now, reading into it, he does it for his grandmother, his late grandmother, who just passed away. So Rogers has said that he felt bad and doesn't, mean no disrespect, and I guess they'll just kind of battle it out again this weekend. That matchup's going to be pretty tough because Victor Cruz, regardless of that one interception, he lit it up against. Rogers couldn't contain him.
I know, and that's, and now he's coming off of a 3-touchdown game, so that's all a little scary. But, to your point, I feel like, I know he wrote that in his book, and obviously it now has even more sentimental value, but that's a really taunting move to still have, to just salsa in the end zone. Like,
yes.
Regardless of the family ties, it's like saying, like, oh, when Joe Horn took out the phone, or T.O. with the Sharpie, like his grandma loved Sharpies, and like, does that make it okay? And he shouldn't be fined,
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't want to be insensitive. It's just that, if you're going to salsa in the end zone, look at everyone who does the double check, the Aaron Rodgers.
I was just about to say that, the double check. Everyone does the double check now. Yeah. So, I guess you can't take offense to that. I think now it's a little more sentimental to Cruz, obviously, and I think Rogers said he was sorry, and
obviously now it's going to be off limits. No one's going to imitate Cruz. He's going to own that. So good for him.
Okay.
Sorry, I sound so insensitive, but it's a touchdown. It's an end zone dance. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So moving on, let's talk about Alex Smith. He threw out the first pitch at the Giants playoff game, which I was at, and it was funny. The minute he started walking across the bullpen, the whole stadium just was on their feet. Everyone was so excited to see Alex Smith. He's pretty much known that he's a diehard Giants fan. He got almost fined for wearing the hat.
Yes. You're totally getting fined, by the way.
I'm totally fined. And he threw out the first pitch. He actually bounced it to Sergio Romo, but it was still fun to see him out there on the hill throwing. And Bochy even said, "Oh yeah, I know he's got a good arm." And I was like, "No, he doesn't, Boch." He bounced it.
That's hilarious.
I've thrown out first pitches and I haven't even bounced it. So anyways, what do you think about that?
I just think it's really cool, the ovation he's getting. I know you call him my boy, and I guess, yes, I'm not wearing the jersey today, but when I first went on Twitter, in my bio, it said Alex Smith apologist. So I really have been an apologist for him. And I feel like you and about 10 million other people actually owe him an apology in unison. It's like there was never that trend.
I will say it. I know. I've said it now. I'm like, oh, I'm swallowing my words because I do, feel bad because I never bashing because he's still my quarterback, but not to the point where I was confident, him under center.
Well, a lot of people just wrote him off. He was a bust. He was in the Jamarcus Russell category. He would be grouped with him every year at draft time. And, no one ever kind of saw the skills, and no one really thought if he actually came in with a quarterback, a good quarterback coach and a good offensive mind that maybe he can gel. And not to say that I thought that with all certainty, but I just wanted to see the guy get a chance. That's all.
No, and that's true. There's so many different quarterbacks that have been bust because of the fact that they had a bad coach. You can see, that in the past. So I think it was nice to have Singletary be, I know we both talked about Singletary. I'll go on. That's
Don't
another
say the name.
But he could have ruined Smith if he stayed there any longer. So it was nice that Harbaugh came in, a player's coach, a quarterback himself, to be able to help him. Because you look at someone like David Carr, that poor guy's career is ruined because Dom Capers put him in bad situations.
Yeah, very good point. So yeah, I'm just happy to see Alex getting a little love finally.
Perfect. I know you're happy. You should put that in your bio on Twitter. He was right next to Harbaugh. All right, so that is our third down. All right, and we are back for our final down, our fantasy down. We all know that you're going to start the 49ers defense. We're going to start Alex Smith. He's been on a great ride this past couple weeks. Fantasy-wise, Melissa, his points have been off the charts for Alex Smith. And with Gore and Vernon Davis, Crabtree has been someone that a lot of people weren't sure about. Yeah. And now been proven a lot of people wrong, even me. I even made jokes on my show that touchdowns don't grow on crab trees, and there was all this, stuff about. Yeah, so now look at he's got good hands. He's actually running the right routes. I mean, he's had a couple games where he's been a little bit out of sync, but all in all, he's been pretty solid. And I think I hope for him to have a good game this weekend.
Yeah, he was targeted 7 times last week, and he caught 6 passes. Obviously, eclipsed the 100-yard mark. I actually saw that he has over 1,000 yards in his last 16 games played. Period. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. It was like the first time since I think 2003 the Niners receivers done that. So kind of slowly, very under the radar. He's already become a little bit of a force, but I mean he's totally in sync with Alex Smith. And you're right, it's definitely the route running. It's also the yards per catch. In the first couple weeks, everything was under 10 yards, and now everything's over 15 yards. It's a lot of running after the catch. It's just Alex's confidence and throwing a little deeper too. They're kind of spreading out the guys a little bit more, and it's definitely translating into Crabtree being a good fantasy picker.
And that was the biggest concern, is people saying, can Smith get these receivers the ball? And he has. He showed, that last week. Exactly. And with Crabtree, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way because when he first was drafted, first-round pick, the way he held out and all the diva stuff, I wasn't a big fan. But now, he's showing me what he's got on the field, and that's all I care about at this point.
Yeah.
And sleeper pick, Randy Moss is still someone I think that Harbaugh is going to start using in the offense. I know Moore is using as a decoy and so forth, and Moss has been happy with his role. I do think eventually he is going to start catching some really, deep balls. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with you. I mean, I think if Randy Moss has one. He just needs one good catch, every 3 games, and then the whole decoy stuff works. Continues to work.
That is true. The decoy is really working. Yeah, but a lot of teams are catching on too that he's a decoy.
He's not on the field very much. That's one issue. But I mean, they clearly don't need him. If Alex Smith is throwing for over 300 yards and Randy Moss is in for 3 plays the whole game, I mean. Obviously they don't need him, but I think it's something to just sort of mix it up and just kind of, confuse defenses a little bit, particularly as they start heading, more into December and playoffs. I think that's really important, just more confusing potential opponents.
And he'll be good in the playoffs too because he's a veteran. He's been there, and he's right now he's a good guy in the locker room.
Yeah, as long as he's, doesn't act like Brandon Jacobs is acting.
Yeah, and so far so good. So, yeah, I think some people maybe they'll play him as a sleeper, but we'll see as the weeks progress.
Yeah. So, the only other thing, I know you had mentioned the 49ers defense, and, one thing that I think they only have 4 interceptions this year, and I'm going to make a projection that they're going to add 2 to that. Very homerish projection, admittedly, but I think it's going to happen. I really do.
So we will be there, and we're going to get some pre- and post-game interviews. That's be exciting for our next week episode. And go Niners, and hopefully we get the win this Sunday.
Yeah. Go Niners.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Who got it better? Nobody. To the field from the tailgate party. SFC, yeah, we still G's, but we crushing and hitting every damn thing. If it ain't real, it ain't right. If you can't take a hit, take a hike. The legendary Super Bowl champ said right. A classic connection, Montana to Rice. Field motor section, mission to Diamond Heights. Bayview District, Sunday and Monday nights. Let's ball. If the Niners on y'all, that's the right call. I got one question. Tell them, Harbaugh.
got it better than us? Nobody.